Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to have you here with us in wonderful Venice. Maybe you could begin with a brief introduction to your film. What can audiences expect if they watch it?
So, The Matchmaker is the story about Tuba Gondel. Tuba Gondel is accused to be a recruiter. She is technically, she's from France, but she grew up in the UK. And it's her story, but the idea is to tell the story of a phenomenon that a lot of women joined ISIS, and I wanted to understand why they did it and what they were expecting and what they were escaping from. So I tried not to give any, answers, and not to give any answers, but just to present the facts as I got to learn them and I got to know them. And yes, I hope that viewers will actually ask themselves some questions.
And what was the initial spark of the idea to tell this story? Was it something you read in the news or something you're already familiar with in terms of the subject area? What was your way into it?
Well, I'm also a journalist and I am a war correspondent, and I worked a lot in the area since 2014. The idea of this film came about after that I've seen how the media mainstream was actually either victimizing this woman or demonizing them. There were no shades and not really grasping or understanding why so many people have joined the Islamic State from Western countries. So the idea came exactly for that, for understanding more, to go way more in depth, and also challenge this idea that women are just victims or crazy and therefore not really need to be heard. I think that women need to be heard in general, and I think that this was a very important story because it tells us so much about our societies and the way we are living now in these modern times. And it is an important subject because if you have hundreds of thousands of people who have left their countries to go and live under Sharia, we need to ask questions.
And in terms of from the practical side, where did you even begin? Once you decided you were going to make this documentary, where did you start in terms of actually making it?
I started from Baghouz. Baghouz was the last pocket of the territorial pocket of the Islamic State in Syria. So I went there and I started filming in this and the last battle against the Islamic State and understand what was happening, because what was incredible about Baghouz is that nobody realized how many people were in this really small territory, because it was really at that point in 2019 was really, really small. And thousands and thousands of people came out from this. They were hiding underground in tents, because what happened is since 2017, when the Raqqa operation finished, so when the coalition and the Syrian Democratic Forces they regained Raqqa, this massive exodus of people that still believed in Islamic State followed the Islamic State in every single territory. So as the Syrian Democratic Forces were advancing in order to defeat militarily ISIS, these people were traveling as well. So at the end, like thousands of women came out, thousands, literally, and children as well. So from there, then I began to follow them in the camps, and then I met Tuba.
What was it like speaking to her, working with her, having her as the subject of your documentary?
I mean, it was very challenging, of course, because first of all, you are interviewing somebody who is who is living in very dire conditions, because the camps are very difficult places where to live, and she was in captivity as well. No, so this is the starting point. It was difficult because I knew that what she was accused of. I read a lot of her tweets. I followed her on social media. I felt that there was a kind of double personality. She had a personality online, and then she had a personality with me. Of course, she agreed to be featured in the documentary also because she thought that this was an opportunity for her, eventually to get out. I don't think that she really grasped how long it will take to make a documentary, which is, it takes a long time. I worked on this documentary for 3 years and a half. I mean, it was difficult because, on a certain extent, you empathize. and I empathized a lot with her. But on the other hand, there was also the question of the responsibilities that she has to have made that choices, and to have joined Islamic State and allegedly recruiting others, including minors, and underage women, girls in this case, and which she always denies it, but she is accused also from the British government. So this double thing was very, very difficult. And this was the first time for me to be confronted to interviewing somebody who is thinking exactly the opposite of you. It's much easier when you interview somebody you share values with or you admire and everything else. So what do you do when you have to interview what is being nicknamed the evil? Because ISIS was evil, for all over the world. They made terrorist attacks. They made the whole world afraid. So how do you actually do it?
Can you pinpoint a particular moment that you found really challenging, or on the other side, another moment where you sort of felt that you'd maybe relief, or you felt you'd really captured what you wanted to in your documentary?
I think challenging times when she was lying a lot to me, for instance, when I asked her about her tweets about the Bataclan attack in France, and she said, I don't remember. Or, she has had a lot of this kind of answer as, no, I don't remember this, or no, I've not done this, although, there are all the evidence there. That was very challenging because of how much you can confront her as well, In general, the time with her for me was very, very important. When in the tents, we start this conversation in the tents, really while, cooking and doing other stuff. The tents were also very difficult places where to shoot, but we can get into that later. She started opening up, especially for the roles of women in the Islamic State, which is something that, was not really kind of unheard, or really not a subject that a lot of people were interested in. So when she started listing all of these different works that a woman could do in Islamic State, and it was clear to me that finally somebody was telling the truth, because otherwise for the media mainstream, women were just staying at home. But this was not true. So this was very important for me.
So I guess this was a real journey for you personally, as well as creating your film. Did you feel it changed your own views and your own understanding, quite dramatically, from before you started making it?
I think I was able to go more in depth about my own knowledge as well. I started writing about ISIS women in 2015. So, I studied and researched a lot, but I think that what it was clear to me at the end of this documentary, after interviewing not just her, but also a lot of other people, of course, that didn't make it into the cut, but, you stay there for such a long time, you interview different people. And I think I was kind of, let's say, relieved on a certain extent to understand that, these people were not crazy as we would like them to think, but really this is an answer to our society and the crisis that our society feels right now. And there is a lot of social tension. There is a lot of things happening in Europe, in our societies. And I finally understood that this was an answer to that. Then, of course, I don't share those values. I don't share this kind of answers, because go and join the Islamic State that was giving an alternative to the life that we are having was not what I would have chosen, for sure. But I understood very well the void that they were describing, that also Tuba describes herself, when she describes when she started converting to Islam, that feeling that she had by clubbing or having boyfriends, this void that she felt all the times, and feeling unsatisfied and not having a purpose. This is something that is shared by a lot of people. So I think that this was very important for me, that I could really point it out on.
And in terms of kind of documentary film as a form, as a medium, how do you think your background as a journalist kind of helped you sort of shape your film, and how do you think it's an amazing tool? I guess you could see it maybe in contrast to sort of pure journalism, reading news headlines. there's something about the form that allows people maybe to empathize in a deeper way than, facts and figures, on the front page of a newspaper.
Sure, you have more time to go more in depth. I think that this is very important. And I think that my journalistic background helped me also to give the context of the story. Because without the context, you cannot really understand Tuba. No, without understanding how did the propaganda look like? I think that this was very important. How other, have been victim of the Islamic State, not just us that have been, attacked, let's say, in our cities, but also people who have been kidnapped by the Islamic State and enslaved. What did that mean? And I think that kind of departs from classical documentary that is very intimistic and stuff, but it kind of helps to have an overview idea. And what I've tried to do is to bring the viewers inside the situation, before with the war, then with the propaganda, then other testimonies, then together in the camps, to live, or this is what I tried. I do not know if I achieved it that much, but you will tell me then, to give all of this, to come together on this journey.
And ultimately, what do you hope the impact of your film will be? Because it is a thorny topic, it is a sensitive topic that you're entering, into dialogue with. So what do you expect or hope that the impact will be?
I hope that people will start asking themselves questions, why, this is happening, how can we prevent this to happen again? How much do we need to change in order to stop this kind of Islamic radicalism that is really taking roots in our societies? And I think that this is very important. I don't want people to judge Tuba. I don't think that anybody could and should judge her, but just to tell this story, to see this story as one of the many stories of hundreds of thousands of people who went to the Islamic State. This is one story. This is her story, but her story is true for many, many, many others. So I think that my hope is exactly this, for the viewers to ask themselves questions: which kind of societies are we living in if we're creating this?
And how much do you think it's significant that it's both, female-led in front of and behind the camera? And it seems maybe in the past documentary film could be a bit closed off or quite male-dominated, and maybe we're seeing a bit of a shift in that respect, and it's quite crucial because otherwise we're not hearing other sides to these stories.
I think it's very important, and I think that yes, something is shifting, something is changing. I made another film that was released in 2018 about women, three women, one in Iraq, one in northern eastern Syria, was a commander, and the third one in Afghanistan. And this was a whole female film. Completely on the ground, we were all women. The editor was woman. The executive producer is a woman. And I think that after that, I never wanted to work with men anymore. Because, of course, there are also problems. I'm not saying that everything is perfect, but, the gaze, it's different. The sensibility is different. And I think it's time for women to tell women's stories as well. And I'm not really keen anymore on watching films in which male directors tell the stories of women. I think that it's time for us to regain a little bit of strength and tell our own stories, because it is different. Because at the end of the day, I am socialized as a woman, people perceive me as a woman, and therefore the system treats me as a woman, and I suffer from that, so we can understand and empathize with certain dynamics that men cannot understand, but it's not their fault. It's not a question. It's just different. It's not even worse or better. It's just different. And we have another view on another ways to deal with stuff.
And that's also true in journalism, and particularly in being like foreign correspondents and stuff, that feels kind of maybe less progressive than, say, I don't know, arts and culture in terms of the gender balance. And my other question was going to be, do you feel like the mainstream media also has more of a responsibility, perhaps, to get behind kind of stereotyping and what you said right at the beginning, victimizing or demonizing, that maybe they're not telling the full story, and there needs to be a bit more responsibility on the side of the media about that?
For sure. And also because a lot of things are seen with the lenses of sexism, And it's not just about ISIS women. I give you another example. For instance, the Kurdish fighters, I spent a lot of time with them. And the fact that for many years they were portrayed as pass me the term, cool chicks with Kalashnikov was really emptying the whole meaning of why they were defending themselves, what they were fighting for. And about this, nobody really was exploring in depth what was going on. So yes, we have a lot of responsibilities to tell the stories from different kind of sides, and it's very important. It's very crucial in order to inform and to understand the society that we are living in. Because if we are always have one gaze, we don't really grasp reality. And this is it's an obligation for journalism to try to go beyond the surface, to scratch, because if you just scratch the surface a little bit, then a whole new world comes out.
Finally, what does it mean to you to have your film here in Venice? And you already know what your next project is going to be, or are you still waiting to see what comes up?
So I think I'm very happy and honored to be here. This is my second time in Venice. I already had a film in the official selection in 2016, but that was co-director. So I'm honored, and I think also it's a privilege. We know also that the statistics about Venice are very, very low. Just 23 or 24% of women directors got into the festivals, and this is like a really important festival. And I hope more and more women will apply and encourage this. But it's also what do we do with this? How can we help other women? Because sometimes we are choosing, let's say, pass me the term, a DP or somebody because of his experience, but then there is an equally good woman who does not have that experience, for instance, because she never had the opportunity to have that experience. So it's very important to understand that this is a privileged position, but if you just think about yourself, you're not going to go very far. I think that we need to think in a more organic way of all the women in the industry, and not just the cinema industry. Also, as you said, the media industry is very important.
And your next project, do you know?
My next projects, I have some ideas, for sure. I'm waiting to see some answers. Nothing is really concrete, so I will wait. And also, to be honest, after working for 3 years and a half on this, it's a long time. Maybe I should just catch my breath for a couple of months and then think really, truly, which kind of new project I want to embark to for such a long time.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us, and really enjoy your time here in Venice. Thank you.
Thank you so much.